Welcome to a brand new episode of Motorheads, and we're with somebody very special today, especially if you like your bikes large, old school, and with a lot of heritage. Stuart Garner, CEO of Norton Motorcycles. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Welcome to India, and it's a great day today because you've launched the Norton brand into India after a long, say, unofficial absence.
Yes.
Norton did have a big history in India in the 50s and the 60s. Tell us a little bit about the brand to begin with, and tell us about how you came to own the brand in the first place.
Yeah,
That's a
for
fantastic
sure.
story.
Hey, thanks for being here on Motorheads, and it's great to be able to come and tell you about the Norton story. Norton is a brand, a very long-standing British brand, formed in 1898, with its first motorcycle made in 1902, and I've got one of those 1902 bikes in the factory, so very, very lucky to have one. And then a big history throughout the 20s and 30s. Was a big racing brand, so we raced the Isle of Man TT, won that for many years and won many world championships in the 20s and the 30s. And then, as a lot of other British companies in the 50s, 60s, 70s had many troubles, but managed to get the successful Commando out 1968 into the 70s. So it's the 50th anniversary of the Commando in 2018, so a very long heritage in its motorcycling history. I brought the brand in 2008. We had our first member of staff in 2009, delivered our first bike in 2010, and we've kind of been growing up in the UK and Europe and building the business and getting more models and some more engine platforms into market. And we thought now it's time to get slightly wider and get around the world. And India and the Indian region is very, very attractive to us because everybody, they're all into the two-wheelers, they all like bikes, it's bike friendly, the people are very nice. And we met up with Ajinkya and Kinetic, had a great relationship, and we decided to put the venture together, and here we are in India, and loving it. It's my first time here in the country, and it's really exciting to see the bikes here, thinking that we've got that future ahead of us now, bringing them into India.
Right. Now, I'm going to touch very briefly upon a rumor that we heard a couple of months ago about Norton teaming up with another Indian manufacturer, which was Mahindra. Of course, it's a much larger manufacturer as compared to the Kinetic Group. Kinetic does have a lot of other great historic brands in their kitty too in India. Tell me about the decision to go with the Kinetic brand as compared to somebody else.
Well, we've been speaking to 3 or 4 people over the last 2 years because India and the Asian territory, it's a really big opportunity for Norton, and we'd kept out of the territory not finding the correct partner. We didn't want to come in and get it wrong, and we felt it was better to keep it clean and find the right partner to come with, rather than go in with the wrong partner or come ourselves not understanding the market. So we'd waited, and we got introduced to Ajinkya and Kinetic, and we got on personally very, very well, and we've become very good friends, and we spoke about what do we see as the motorcycle future in India, and what would a structure of a partnership be, and how would we go about it. Well, we could have wrote down our plans on the same piece of paper. They were a mirror image. And we laughed and just said, well, this is it. We've now found the correct people to make the partnership and to make the venture. So really, I think, business is all about people, and Ajinkya and I get on very, very well, and Andreas as well. So we've all made a very close bunch of guys working on motorcycles, and we all understand the bikes, the proposition. So I think it was easy to say, this is the correct partnership, these are the correct people to be in it, and once we'd got that, we moved very, very quickly to get the structure together, to get the agreement in place, and we've gone for a joint venture. It's not just a distribution, it's a proper new company we're forming in India, so we're all very, very committed to that for the long term. So I think, we'd spoken to a few people and bits came out in the press, but we'd not got the right partner. It's like choosing a wife. You might have a few girlfriends, but until you know it's the one, it's just a girlfriend. And when you know it's the one, you move quickly to say, yes, this is my partner. And it's kind of what we did with Ajinkya and Kinetic. It was very obvious they were the right people.
Right. So you talked about briefly in the press conference about using the Kinetic plant near Pune, to have an assembly facility there. What's the kind of equation there? Is it going to be semi-knocked down, completely knocked down kits?
Yeah.
What's it going to be going forward?
Yeah. We're going through that process now and industrialising the bike and looking at what's locally sourced and what's sourced from the UK. And there's a blend there, we feel, to strike from getting all of the best components and the hand-built assemblies from the UK, coupled with industrialising some of the Indian processes to make sure we can get some cost benefit from being here in India, and we'll pass that on directly to the owners so that we can give slightly more value here in India by using some of that Indian engineering locally, but bringing the best quality components and the hand-built element from the UK. So the engineers, we have some UK engineers coming to India, we have some Indian engineers going to the UK to learn the bike and to see where the advantages are and combine the best of both. So I think on day one there'll be a limited edition of CBU bikes, of complete hand-built bikes from Norton. And I think by the time we get through the process, we'll have some localization in there, and that'll give us a really competitive price point, but still keep all of that quality in component level from the Nortons that you see here today.
Right. You're talking about components from India and components, hand-built components. What kind of percentage do you talking about in terms of hand-built components? Because I'm guessing the tank and the big panels are still sort of stamped and they're not handcrafted as the original bikes were. But in terms of the really difficult stuff, like the carbon fiber fenders on the bike behind you, they're just intricate, they're very detailed.
Yeah.
What kind of components do you see India giving to Norton as a company, not just in India but in the UK, to bring the prices down?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that is a large economies of scale.
Yeah, I think quite obviously Olin suspension, Brembo brakes can be globally sourced, so that kind of component level from those world-class suppliers will remain.
Right.
Our aluminium tanks on the Dominator are still handmade,
really?
Yeah, old-fashioned at Norton, so it's difficult to replicate that, so we will probably take some of those. I think probably the easy things are things like a balance shaft and some of the easy metal components. We can commercialise those in India and have good opportunity for cost down, and as I say, we'll pass that cost down on. But things like top yokes that are polished over in the UK, that's going to be quite difficult to replicate. I'm not saying we can't, but there's a process and there's a transfer of skills to get the education into the Indian engineering and into that hand-built process. And on the first day, I think we'll carry on with some Norton supply. But for sure, as we go forwards, we'll look to get more components commercialised in India for the Indian bikes specifically. But if there's some cost benefit on some parts going back to the UK, then we could probably see some components swap over.
Right. Now, the first few bikes that are going to come early next year are going to be CBU. I believe they're going to be special editions of some sort that will only be sold in India. Give us a little bit of a lowdown. Will they have a tricolour somewhere?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're working now, and you see on some of the promotional material we've released today, you see the blend of the flags. Yeah. Looks very, very attractive, and I think we'll work that into the paint design. We've just launched a few days ago 50th anniversary Commando in Britain, because it's 50 years of the Commando. So I think in 2018, for the Indian special editions, you'll see a 50th logo in there to commemorate 50 years of Commando, along with the flag and the tricolour in there. So I think there's a whole host of things we can put on in the specification and the paint, just to commemorate that these will be the first bikes coming into India, and they'll be very strictly limited editions. So we'll hand build those in the UK and then ship them over into India.